Hey there, and welcome back to Common Knowledge, the show where I take a look at 10 common Magic the Gathering cards and tell you if they're any good in the Pauper format or not. Before we get started, I wanted to, make a little plea. I don't care. I need to make this very clear. I don't care about subscriber numbers or view numbers. I mostly just do this for fun because it's fun for me to do. And, I'm glad that some of you guys enjoy it too. I'm sitting at 249 subscribers, which I don't think that's a big, again, I don't think that's a big number. I don't think that's a huge deal or anything, but there is just a tiny little part of my OCD brain that's like, could we get that to 250? Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe we're already there. We gain a follower every once in a while, and it's common enough at this point that it'll probably happen on its own. But if it hasn't, I don't know, maybe tell a friend that you like this show. Well, all right, enough of that. Let's get into actually looking at some cards, and we will start with Enlightened Ascetic, which is 1 and a white for a 1/1 cat monk. And when this creature enters, you may destroy target enchantment. That's kind of cool, like a half Reclamation Sage. Now, Reclamation Sage is one not available in the Pauper format. Pretty sure. That's an uncommon card, right? Didn't I did a thing about this, right? I already talked about Reclamation Sage and how it's not legal in Pauper, but it probably should be. But this is a 3-mana 2/1, which when it enters, you can destroy a target artifact or enchantment. So this being cheaper but smaller, but also more narrow and only hitting enchantments is interesting. You're getting some trade-offs there. But I guess it's not much of a trade-off if the other card doesn't even show up in the format. A 2-mana 1/1 I don't feel great about unless it's going to draw me a card or something. And if it's like it's like a Helpful Hunter or the Spirited Companion. I don't mind paying 1 and a white for a 1/1 creature if it draws me a card. Maybe I can do something with that. But this just being able to destroy an enchantment, what decks are you really playing this against? Mono White Heroic, Bogles, those are the enchantment heavy decks of the format. If this said destroy target artifact, I think it might actually be somewhat playable as a sideboard piece because there just are more artifact decks going on in the Pauper format. You could potentially blink this, and you could put this in a Orthoff Blade deck and bounce it and destroy a bunch of enchantments. But I think mostly you're not going to play this at all. I don't think it's quite good enough. It is interesting though. It's not bad per se. It's just not particularly good. And for that, I think you got to end up giving it like a 3.3 maybe. Like that's actually a pretty decent score, all things considered. Most of the cards we see are in the 2 or I would say even 1 range. There are a lot of bad commons in the world, go figure. But this one is fine. It's fine. Not playable, but fine. Oh, Blind Phantasm. I think we've actually done this card because I've talked about it before. 2 and a blue, or I remember seeing the art before. 2 and a blue for a 2/3 illusion. That's all it is, but it is from Future Sight and has the very cool Future Sight frame. There's a cycle. I think there's a full cycle of creatures that are vanilla creatures that use this same full Future Sight frame. And it's great. It's like Massive Ghouls is the black one. Fomori something is the red one. Fomori Giant, maybe. Something of the Sixth Pride is the white one. Which one did I miss there? The green one? What's the green one? Is it like a centaur, maybe? Well, first I want to know about the Blade of the Sixth Pride, Future Sight. There you go. God, doesn't that look good? Doesn't that look so good? Trying to remember what's the green one. Let's go down and find the green one. Well, I guess we can find all of them here, I suppose. But yeah, there's Massive Ghouls, which is expensive and not very good. I mean, none of these cards are very good, but they're just cool looking. Like you shouldn't be able to do that. There's a Fomori Nomad. That's what it is, but it is a Nomad Giant. So I was kind of close with Fomori Giant. And then our green one is a Centaur. Yeah, the Nessian Courser. So that's cool. I like that. Those are neat ideas, but they are not particularly great cards. This one especially, a 3 mana 2/3 on the ground, not gonna feel amazing about that. I think it wasn't too many episodes ago where we found the strictly better Windrake that was a 3 mana 2/3 flyer, and it's also strictly better than this because it has flying. So as much as I like this, I mean, I love this art. It's not a very good card. Um, I'd give it like a 1.8. No, it's got to be even lower than that, right? Because it's just so vanilla. 1.5, and maybe I'll do an extra bonus card today since I feel like we've already done this one. Anchovy and banana pizza. Okay, 2 and double black for an artifact food. When this artifact enters, you destroy target creature, and you can pay 2, tap, and sack it to gain 3 life, like you do with a food. These pizzas are okay, especially the green one, which has seen a lot of combo potential in the Pauper format. But this black one is the next best one. It does see some play as well. It again kind of sees play in the Ortsov Blade decks. Now, 4 mana is a lot of mana. That's more mana than I want to spend on something that I'm constantly bouncing back to my hand and playing again. That adds up real quick. But the unconditional destroy target creature is really pretty good. It's an artifact that sits on the table that allows your refurbished familiars to become cheaper, and that's always fine. Having it be a food and being able to just tap and sack it like a food to gain some life whenever you need it isn't the worst thing in the world. We've also have we actually seen this in um, the other familiar decks, the cat, the cat that does stuff with food. I don't play that deck, so I don't know it as much, but like the food pestilence kind of deck, maybe that plays this too, as this is a food, but it does have some removal capabilities with it. Um, I this is a fine card. I don't put it in my Ortsov Blade deck, so I probably am a little lower on it than some other people might be. I just don't like the cost. I think it costs way too much. It can't. I suppose it can't be cheaper, right? You can't make this cost as much as a murder. Well, murder still would be instant speed. This could you could only do it sorcery speed. I don't know. Maybe you could make this 1 double black. Maybe. But even at 2 double black, it has some utility. It does see a little bit of play, so I need to give it something for that. I think I'll go for a 5.3. It's a pretty good card. And I'm saying that about a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle card. How about that? Next up is Keen-Eyed Archers, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 elf archer with reach. You want to pay an extra mana for a grizzly bear with reach? I don't. Yeah, this is bad. I'll give it a 1.3. That's about all I can give it. And all I can say. Shipwreck Sifters is 1 and a blue for a 1/2 spirit, and when this creature enters, you draw a card and discard a card. And whenever you discard a spirit card or a card with disturb, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. That's okay. That's kind of interesting. You get a loot effect, which is nice card selection. I don't mind that. I don't mind. I mean, 1/2, a 1/2 for 2 is not a great rate by any means, but you also are building this in a way. If you're putting this in your deck, you're building this in a way that you probably are very spirit heavy or have cards with disturb on them, I guess, and you're able to power that as an engine. So this might be a 2 mana 2/3 when it comes onto the board if you're looting the right thing. You could also certainly make this work with something like Sneaky Snacker if you wanted to just have some discard fodder, and then you can draw enough cards to bring the Sneaky Snacker back later. So it's like you're not losing the card at all. It's giving you some real card advantage instead of just selection. There are options. There are things you can do. If Sneaky Snacker was a spirit, I don't know if this would see play, but it would see more play than the 0 play it sees now. I still don't think it's bad though. This is a cool little thing, like something that might actually be worth blinking or bouncing to just get that card selection going on. Even though you probably want a card that just draws you a card. Like if you have the option of blinking this or blinking a Mull Drifter, you should blink the Mull Drifter 10 times out of 10. But there's still something kind of cool about it, and I do like cards that can continue to grow over time if you have lots of other looting effects in your deck, and again, you're built to churn through spirits or cards with disturb. Maybe you can make something like this work, but it seems like a lot of effort for a card that is, at the end of the day, still just kind of a vanilla card that doesn't start out very strong and maybe get stronger later. It's a little tricksy, but not tricksy enough to really make an impact. So I'm going to give it something like a 2.8. It's not bad. It's not great. Task Force is 2 and a white for a 1/3 human rebel. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, it gets +0/+3 until end of turn. Now, we have seen cards do similar kinds of things to this. You know, the Tireless Tribe has the discarding to get +4 toughness every time you discard a card, and that sees a lot of play with the inside outs, and things like that. And you could do a very similar kind of thing with Task Force, but it doesn't have the comboing. There probably is some kind of combo potential with this where you're able to continue targeting it with things as it goes. Um, but it's not as easy as the combos that we have found with Tireless Tribe. So it doesn't quite work in that sense. I will say this thing cannot be lightning bolted, which is pretty cool, right? Every time the opponent goes, well, I'm going to lightning bolt that thing, it would just get another 3 toughness. So it's fine. This also works really nicely with combat tricks. So if you just play a combat trick on your guy, he not only gets the boost of whatever the combat trick is, he gets another 3 toughness out of the deal as well. I like all of those things. It doesn't make it a good card though. And kind of like what we mentioned before with the sifters, you have to build your deck in such a way that is probably really inefficient. Even though you could make this card work, the rest of your deck kind of doesn't work as well. So this ends up being a bit of a trap, but I do like it. I also like that it's a rebel. It's something you can grab with a lot of those rebel cards that can tutor up other rebels. So there is some value and utility there, but overall, this is still not a very good card. I don't really like a 3 mana, basically vanilla 1/3. That's not great, but I think there is cool stuff you can do with the ability. And also, if you cast Inside Out on this thing, it gets 3 toughness, and then Inside Out triggers where you're switching the power and toughness. So you are turning this thing into a 6/1 with just a single card, and that's kind of cool. Like that's not too bad. Not too bad. Anyway, did I give that a score? I don't know if I did. I think I'm gonna go with like a 2.4. Do I want to go up to a 5? Sure, I'll go with 2.5. I can feel okay about that with the combo potential, but this is not nearly as good as a Tireless Tribe again. So don't really listen to me, but kind of listen to me. Moorland Drifter is 1 and a white for a 2/2 spirit with Delirium. This creature has flying as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. It's a grizzly bear that can sometimes fly. White's not the best color for making delirium happen. That's something that's a lot more associated with something like green or red or black, colors that are really good about discarding cards. Even blue can discard cards quite well. White is not as good at discarding cards, at self discarding cards. Not a whole lot of cards in white that do that, and especially not in the Pauper format. I can think of spell shapers and things like that would allow you to discard a card and make it act like a spell. So I guess you have those ways of discarding cards, but it's still, I think you have to jump through a decent amount of hoops to willingly discard cards in white. So Delirium might be a little tougher to get in this color, and I think that knocks this card down a little bit as well. But it wasn't great to start with. It is just a grizzly bear that can sometimes fly, and that's not great. I suppose it is better than a grizzly bear, which I give a 2 to a grizzly bear. So I'll give this a 2.1. Probably doesn't deserve it, but I'll give it to it anyway. Highland Berserker is 1 and a red for a 2/1 human Berserker ally. When this creature or another ally you control enters, you may have ally creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. That is not too bad. Less than a Grizzly Bear, I suppose, a 2 mana 2/1, but a pretty cheap ally to get on the table. And in a deck that you're building around allies, I think red is a decent color for allies, like red, white, maybe even blue throws in there to get decent ally support. And there are allies of all colors, so you could play a 5-color ally deck. I think that would be a little difficult in Pauper, but you could make it. You could try to make it work. And changelings also work great with cards like this. You throw down. Oh, I'm trying to think of like a red changeling off the top of my head, and I'm kind of coming up blank. But there are changelings out there that you can certainly play, and maybe it's like a color that you splash in to get some other better changelings. Like there's fire belly changeling, but that doesn't see play in Pauper. But if you get like the mass vandal, if you splash into green a little bit, I think you're able to start doing some kind of cool things where you're getting all your creatures first strike and you're just going in on the attack. You can do some real alpha strike kind of stuff with a card like this. And if you have multiple copies, it's not like you're getting multiple first strikes, and that part doesn't matter. But this is still a pretty cheap thing to bring down on the table. And even if you have multiples, they are all getting that boost and they're all swinging in quite decently. So I actually don't really mind this as a card. There just isn't an allies deck in Pauper. At least not right now. I think we need a little bit more support, and I don't know when that support's coming because we did just have Avatar that added some allies, but not enough to make it a deck in Pauper. So how much longer do we have to wait to see more ally support? And I just don't know when that's going to be. I think I can give this a 2.9 for its potential, but I don't want to give it a 3 because it's just not there yet. Kind of cool though. Oh, we got a couple left. Hapless Researcher is a single blue mana for a 1/1 human wizard. You can sacrifice this creature to draw a card and then discard a card. Huh. I kind of don't hate that. It's not great. I mean, in your mono blue terror deck, are you going to play this or Delver of Secrets? You're going to play Delver of Secrets every single time. But it is a turn 1 play. It is a creature that can just go out and attack on your next turn, and if your opponent blocks it, you can just sacrifice it and get the value out of it. Or if your opponent swings in with a giant creature that doesn't have trample, you can block and prevent a lot of damage in the same way that you might use a Sakura Tribe Elder. And you can block, and then in response to the damage, you can sacrifice the creature and get the effect. So I don't mind that. Again, it's not good enough, but it's actually not too bad either. I think I got to give this like a high mid 2 as well. I'm going to go for a 2.7 on this. I kind of don't hate it. Cool little card. And I guess this is officially our 10th card, but we are going to do a couple bonuses because we did get that Blind Phantasm. Dagger Drome Imp is 1 and a black for a 1/1 imp with flying and lifelink. For a French vanilla card, that's a pretty decent one. We see, this is worse than a Healer's Hawk for sure. Healer's Hawk is this exact same card, except it's 1 white mana instead of 1 and a black. But black doesn't get a lot of these. You'll sometimes see black 1/1 flyers or black 1/1 lifelinkers. We even have what is it? Banehound, I think. Banehound. Yeah. Which is a 1 mana 1/1 lifelink and haste. So that's also a couple of keywords for a single mana. But the flyer, this just isn't quite as good. And this isn't a Pauper card, but if I'm thinking about 1/1 flyers for 1 and a black that have both flying and lifelink, I'm thinking Deep Cavern Bat, and that is a really good card. But that's not in Pauper. So this is what you get instead. Is this good enough to show up in any deck? Not really. No, I think it needs another point of power to justify that mana cost. maybe even like a couple points of toughness. If this was a 1/3 for 2 mana with flying lifelink, okay. And if this was a 2/1, I think it'd be not a slam dunk, but certainly a lot easier to swallow. As it is, though, it's like a 2.3, 2.3, 2.2, something like that. Good keywords, just not quite good. I guess hang on. Ooh, well, we'll make sure we get to that one. Could this go in like a black Gates deck? Like a black heavy Gates deck? Still probably no, right? Because you're probably still playing white at that point because you really want the Sacred Cat and you really want the Outlaw Medic. And if you go that way, then what do you need this card for? Or you could even go Banehound if you really wanted another lifelink guy in a black Gates deck. But yeah, just some ideas. Flying and lifelink are abilities that are really nice with Gates, but we probably just have other cards that do that a little bit better. All right, let's get to this real one. Wow, big hitter here. Burning Tree Emissary, which is hybrid Gruul mana and a hybrid Gruul mana for a 2/2 human shaman, and when this creature enters, you add Gruul. You add a red and a green. So this is a free spell essentially. And you'll see a number of decks that will try to do things with storm count stuff, or even just does this actually get played in the red storm decks, the Gruul storm decks? I mean, I know it sounds like it does because it's Gruul and it's storm. Like, why wouldn't you play that? But this isn't drawing you any cards, and it's not cost reducing you anything, so it's not as good as like a Manamorphose is in those decks. I don't know if it actually sees play in those decks. This does see play in some other decks. Some rally decks will sometimes play this as just a way to get down another creature on the table and be ready to play another creature with the mana it generates. um, so it does see some play. It kind of only sees play in a couple of decks, but it sees good play, and it's a solid role player in those decks. So I want to give it some props that way. It's also just a cool classic Magic card, and you know it's kind of good because they keep putting it at uncommon in lots of different places, even if it's snuck into common on a couple places as well. This is a good card. It's a good card. Like free spells are always kind of good, right? And this is basically a free spell in the way that it pays you back. I gotta go for something like a 5.9. You know, it is just vanilla once it sits on the table, but it also is another body that potentially gets buffed up with some kind of board wide power up, or you know, if you give all your creatures +1/+0, or if you give all your creatures first strike or something, now this becomes a somewhat formidable threat, and that's pretty good. I don't mind that at all. That was our first bonus card. Let's do our second and last bonus card of the day. It is Burn the Impure. 1 and a red for an instant. Burn the Impure deals 3 damage to target creature. If that creature has Infect, Burn the Impure deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. Pretty bad, huh? This was probably okay in limited, where there was a lot more Infect. They built the set around Infect. Pauper is not built around Infect. There are a couple of Infect decks, but I would even say those decks are more like poison decks that just have a couple of creatures with Infect. Those decks generally don't even really care about their creatures outside of being potential blockers to an opponent, because you're mostly going to try to put a poison counter with what is it, like Vraska's Fall, or I can't remember. Well, there's a couple cards that just give your opponent a poison counter, and then you're doing a lot of proliferate shenanigans. So you don't actually play all that many infect creatures or even toxic creatures or any of those creatures that give poison counters, because you don't really need them. You know, sometimes you'll see a couple, but it's not like those are so prevalent that you need an instant like this that will come down and give you that extra value. And if you're not getting that extra value, this card was really bad. It's a Hammer of Bogarden, something like that. No, it's a volcanic hammer, not a right? Volcanic hammer. That's creature or player. Maybe it is hammer of Bog. No, that's just the one that can come back to your hand, right? Hammer of Bogarden. Yeah, this still does damage to target creature or player. I don't know what I'm thinking of then. There's some card that deals 3 damage to a target creature, and that's all it does, and it's 2 mana. And so this is, I guess, is better than that, but not by much, right? Because unless your opponent has a creature with infect, you're not getting that extra 3 damage to the controller. And if you're not doing that, you really should just be playing Volcanic Hammer instead. I know Volcanic Hammer is sorcery speed, so what you really should be doing is just playing Lightning Bolt, which you already are because it's Pauper. Of course, you're playing Lightning Bolt. And this is not a very good card to go with your Lightning Bolts. And we also have other cards that you play after Lightning Bolt if you want to keep doing burn. But with this only hitting creatures, you're not burning much of anything. I think for the narrowness, I gotta dip even down into the ones. Yeah, I gotta dip down to the ones. I'm gonna give it a 1.9. This is a pretty bad card. All right, that's all for me today. I will catch you on the next one.